What is up, everybody? Today in this video I'm going to show you how to update the firmware on the Fuji X100V, which is going to address some overheating issues coming up after this. What is up, everybody? My name is Nelson. On this channel I do photography and tech-based tips, tricks, and tutorials, so if you're new here, please consider subscribing. All right, guys, before I delve into the firmware update, I'd like to talk about what it includes. Now, a lot of users, including myself, have noticed this camera getting very hot when shooting continuous video, and this firmware aims to address that in its own way. So what Fuji has done here is they've added some power management settings. The default setting on version 1.1 is going to be set to high, but then there's going to be a standard mode. On the standard mode, it's going to reduce the amount of time that you're going to be able to record video, but it's also going to help you manage the heat on this camera. Now, a couple of things to note before we go over to the computer and update the firmware. You're going to want a fully charged battery, and it's imperative that you do not touch anything on the camera while it's doing the firmware update, or you could potentially damage your camera. All right, so the first thing that we're going to need to do is we're going to need to format the memory card within the camera before we bring it over to the memory card reader on the computer. And obviously, if you format your card on your camera, or anywhere else for that matter, you're going to lose any pictures or video that you have on there. So make sure to back all of those up before you proceed with the next step. All right, so I'm going to show you right now how to format the memory card in the camera, and then we'll move on to the computer and I'll show you how to update the firmware. All right, guys, so I am releasing this firmware on the day that it launched. If you're watching this video in the future, the first thing you're going to want to do is check the version that your camera currently has on it. To do that, with the camera off, go ahead and hit the display back button and turn the camera on at the same time. All right, we are on version 1. So the first thing we're going to want to do is format the memory card in this camera. So go ahead and turn the camera off and turn it back on again. Hit the menu button on the back of the camera, and we're going to go down to this wrench icon here. Go ahead and select it. Then we're going to go into User Settings, and we're going to click Format. Now remember, back up any videos or pictures that you have on this memory card because you will lose all of them at this point. So go ahead and select OK. And now we can move the memory card over to the card reader on the computer. All right, guys, now you can insert the formatted memory card into your card reader. And now we are going to go ahead and download the firmware. All right, guys, I will leave a link in the description below to the firmware update. When you click the link, you will be presented with this X100V firmware update page. You can go ahead and read the details of the firmware update, which we touched on earlier. If you're ready to proceed, scroll all the way down to the bottom. Go ahead and agree to begin the download if you agree with the license agreement, and click Download. The file size is 47.8 megabytes. All right, what you're going to do now is you are going to navigate to your download folder or wherever you saved the firmware. And we're going to take this fpupdate.dat file and move it to the root of our recently formatted memory card. I'm going to do that by right-clicking on it, and I'm going to hit Send To, and I'm going to send it to my removable disk, letter I. All right, now go ahead and remove the memory card, and we're going to insert it back into the camera. All right, now that we have the memory card reinserted into the camera, you're going to do what we did at the beginning of this process, and you're going to hit the display and back button while simultaneously turning on the power switch. All right, on the top there, you'll notice it says firmware upgrade. Go ahead and select that. We are going from version 1.0 to 1.10. Go ahead and select over to OK. All right, do not open battery cover nor turn off the camera is the warning we get here. And go ahead and select OK. And we are processing. All right, so mine took a couple of minutes to complete. So at this point, go ahead and turn off the camera. And turn the camera back on. Go ahead and hit the menu button on the back. And now if we go back down to that wrench icon, and we click down to power management here, now you'll notice this new menu option on the bottom that wasn't there before, auto power off temp. It's defaulted as being high. You can select standard mode, which will reduce the recording time, but will help you to better manage the overheating issue on this camera. All right, guys, this is the first time that I have updated the firmware on this camera, so I have not gone out to test this feature. If you guys have, let me know in the comments below if you've noticed any change. All right, guys, you are now on version 1.1, and I hope you found this content useful. If you did, please do not hesitate to give it a thumbs up. And if you're new here, please consider subscribing. Have a great one.